Welcome to CoBB, Conversations on the Business of Brands with Sudeep Chawla and Sharavana Raghavan.
No, I think the struggle at the distribution channel is live. I'm sure both of them see it day in, day out on e-commerce as well as traditional trade. There's just more than enough brands vying for consumers' attention.
So it was wonderful when you said COVID kind of created validation for health insurance. Is there a way, Sapna, to say when you launch a new insurance product that this is meeting product market requirement, the PMF? How do you gauge that for a service brand that's viable to take off?
So see, for like in this case, you can't really at this point, like you can't really pilot in a particular geography or a particular segment. So also you decide it basis the profitability. I mean, I'm just trying to simplify this. So you have to look at when you're launching a new product, what are your loss ratios, a post loss ratio, like prior experience and future kind of growth projections, and basis that you'll kind of define, okay, this is the market and this is the kind of features I want to go in for. So actually, it's very difficult to say. How do you kind of divide and segment the offering? Because you're looking now. I'm seeing a lot of interesting things where we are thinking. That was my question. It's maybe separated by the price value equation. So, like for example, hospitals in a particular geography have a lower cost of treatment, so you can price that product cheaper in that zone. So zone-based pricing. So, in zone 1, there's a different pricing. In zone 2, there's a different pricing. So I think that's where you kind of decide, okay, in terms of GTM, I'll try and focus only in this geography or in this segment. Also, in terms of demographics, what the whole endeavor is to get new to health audiences. So the market is somewhere in metros is getting saturated to an extent. Like, I'm sure many people have health insurance policies here. So you'll probably port from one insurer to another. So the idea is really to get the people who are getting into new to health, your first insurance policy.
Is that more expensive or porting is more expensive from a cost to acquisition?
See, porting is from a cost to acquisition, new to health is more expensive, but profitability is better.
And what is loss ratio you said?
Loss ratio is how much do I end up paying for that claim. So if I onboard a healthy life, I will have them with me for a longer time before they go and hit me for a claim.
So how much of that goes into the claim? Okay.
Yes. Or if I onboard a person who's already had a history, and then I'm going to see the pricing is dependent on, it's like a age pricing, band pricing, right? We are not yet pricing for an individual health risk. We are pricing at a
Band level.
band level.
Yeah.
Right. So you are playing on probability. So you need a lot of healthy young population
To offset the costs.
to give that price. Yeah.
Nice.
And then manage your loss
So
ratios.
the outward facing name for that metric is claim ratio. Internally, it's called the loss ratio.
Yeah. From the company's point of view, it's the
Okay, now I get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, that's how.
Yeah.
So we have to cut through the marketer's language.
Right.
Okay.
What about you guys? So when both of you were launching products, was there a moment that you said, "I've got it now. This is my product market fit"?
So I think from a digital funnel, I can probably, because that's something that we operated from some time onwards, is effectively it's the conversion ratio that helps you understand that, okay, so let's say you are an audience, I show my product to you. You are probably interested, you click and then you understand a bit more of it. But the proof comes in from when you actually buy and take it with you. That's the piece. So when we look at a percentage conversion, so I sort of build share of voice on an e-commerce platform or any other, which is share of shelf equivalent in an offline channel. After I look at it, do I finally convert? So as my conversion percentage goes up, I know that there is a larger percentage of the audience that's going to buy. For us, that's the validation. We have certain benchmarks of conversion ratios. If those conversion ratios cross, then we say, okay, fine. The product is probably fit for the market. Now I have to amplify the reach to get more customers like her. That's the principle. That's how we use.
Right. So what is it for you? Was it the Sanjay Mehta conversation or was it?
Yeah, so I think I approach, this is very technical. I mean, we didn't have that kind of, I know, what I meant is that comes with experience. So in my case, that was not the scenario. So it was more of a trial and error kind of a thing. So when I put it on Amazon and Flipkart, and the surge in the order started coming in, I realized that there is an inherent demand somewhere was there, and we somehow cracked or we somehow clicked on that particular point, and that is the reason why the sales were increasing and the same people were keep on ordering again and again and again. So that is when I realized that, okay, one, there is an inherent demand. Second thing, what we offer to the consumers was also spot on, because of which they keep on coming back. So that is when probably a moment ago we also realized at that point of time the product market fit word also was too big of a thing for me, frankly. But now I realize that this is what exactly happened at that time. Right, so somehow we match with their exact need, and
You serve it better than others.
yes, and they're also reciprocated it with the same kind of intent. Okay, yeah, this is good, this is what I wanted, so let me go back to you again types.
Excellent. I think now is the time to shift a little bit of track and get them into more combative mode. All three of them. Okay, now, both of you have challenged some of the incumbent brands with an offering which is differentiated, but something which possibly they have tried, not really succeeded, or they must have tried theoretically in their heads and said, this is not investing into, right? Similarly, Sapna, there are a lot of players disrupting you. Yeah. So now, from the three of you, let's start with first maybe Puru, to say, when you're taking on some of the big guys in the industry, what has been their reaction? How do you think you have responded, and what do you think your continuous reason to win will be versus some of the more established players?
Okay, so are you saying how, when we have gone in the market, how have they reacted?
Yeah. And when you started seeing a little bit of success, it must have gotten noticed. So what has been the sort of reaction that you've seen from other big players in the industry? How have you remained salient and profitable after that? And where do you believe your continued success would come from?
Okay. So I think three pieces. One, I think, as I said, our initial piece was more on identifying the gaps, let's say e-commerce or tier 2, everything. Obviously, as you see scale, the competition also realizes, oh, we missed it out, right? So they come back, they have legacy behind. So the larger players obviously have legacy, they have a certain salience. So it's not very difficult for them to capture the market. However, for us, the reaction has been, if we fall weak that time, then we won't be able to counter them. So when I say fall weak, is make sure that your share of shelf is maintained, make sure that if they are competitive. So sometimes there is also a degree of unreasonableness, right? So there are certain competitors who will just go down to the lowest possible denominator in terms of discounts. I think that is one place where we have not played much, where we have stuck to our gun saying, fine, at some point in time, there is a certain level beyond which you will have to let go. Because, so let's say a competitor would come back, claim the same share of shelf right next to us, run a buy one, get one offer. Fine. I mean, later on, a lot of players, and especially in Amazon, where it's very democratic, it's very easy for a brand to suddenly pop up and say, fine, and especially if you haven't established brand salience, anybody can just counter you immediately. But it comes at a very high cost. Yeah. And that P&L impact is something maybe they don't see at the beginning, because that whole euphoria of getting business right at any cost sort of just lets you go beyond a certain level. It's just that then we've also seen, and we have stuck to our guns over a period of 30 to 45 days, when the agency gives them the invoice or when they look at P&L, that is when they start receding. So, then that sort of gives us an advantage.
So what did you do in that period? Just hold tight?
We just held tight. So again, not at the risk of going technical, but, but there are product ranks of, so you pay, let's say 100 rupees for first rank, 80 rupees for second rank, 60 rupees for third rank. We said we'll settle with the second and the third rank. We are not going to pay 100. Maximum is 60. But then they paid 100 rupees, they bled, and then they came back. Then we immediately could go to rank 1. So that sort of helped us. And obviously, along with that, which is a much slower piece, is your brand salience. So our branded searches started going up. Our requirements for products started. Our conversion ratios were maintained. Our repeats were maintained. So all these three sort of, when put together, made us sort of stay tight.
So you held your guns when somebody else was investing deeply, and before they burnt out, or I like that thing, when the agency sent an invoice, that is when the realization hit. You must have also seen something similar, Manas. Have there been attempts around banana chips?
Yeah. So again, the banana chips as a category, if you see, the local players are a big behemoth type, right? So they have the advantage of pricing. They have the advantage of when they make it, they don't really make just banana chips alone, right? Once you boil their once they fire up their pan, right? So they have the advantage of all those aspects. So that was working in their favor. But yeah, I mean, since we grow, we realize that okay, probably we should anticipate one more bigger player or two more bigger players should be entering into this category very soon, and that is how, and that is an advantage also to an extent for us, because I think the category also will get. Get
But
that
you've not
advantage.
seen that thus far.
Thus far, no, not yet. So, but yeah, I mean, there are a lot of other players. But even before also, like for example, if you look at Haldiram's or a Balaji or a Cheda, right? They already had banana chips in their
I've seen that,
portfolios.
yeah.
Yeah, that was there.
Cheda has those long ones also.
Yeah, they have the long
banana
ones.
sliced and
Yes,
yeah.
yes, that is there. But yeah, on a national level, not much yet. But yeah, we should anticipate. He's looking at the
Now that he's told them, like, bring it on.
That he did when he appeared on Shark Tank.
He's opening the shirt.
You don't need any more invitation.
One point I'll tell you that banana chips is a category which is always overlooked in the sense that okay, yeah, nothing big is going to happen in this category types, which we kind of change that perception. I think to an extent probably that will get validated when a bigger player enter into this category probably.
Correct. No, it will be an
And I think
interesting one.
the seriousness of the banana chips as a potential business could only have been brought about by a Mallu. Kerala. It had to come from Kerala.
Okay.
Because that's where it is, right? So in Kerala, Tamil Nadu is where you actually, banana chips is almost staple. You don't think of it as novelty.
Sure.
It is part of your everyday snacking bit. It had to come from there for it to gain seriousness.
And eventually on a global play also, if you see that it has to come from one Indian only, because banana chips banana chips was always consumed as a fruit in other countries, but in India we consume it as vegetable also. So anything which is savory also has to happen from
So is
from
global
someone from
next
India.
on your charts
So yeah,
now?
of course,
Yeah.
the plan. So if you are looking
fact,
at a
there's
global
this-
play,
So when he
as a
says
car-
we, he means Keralites.
Keralites.
Banana is vegetable. I come from north and I have never considered banana as vegetable.
In fact, there is a proverb in Tamil which says you've got to be useful like a banana tree. In the sense that from the stem, they make puttu with stem. They make salads with stem. From when it's raw banana is used as vegetable. Ripe banana is used across multiple as a fruit itself. So that every part of the tree, from its trunk to its leaves, we eat on the banana leaf, right? So every part of the tree is used.
What do you think
you have
would be the North Indian equivalent of this?
What is that, tobacco?
Neem. Neem. The neem tree.
Medicinal.
Medicinal value all across. For even when the leaves are dry, when they completely become aged, etc., you can burn them and they repel mosquitoes.
Correct.
So every part of a neem tree is equivalent to this with a lot of medicinal values.
So now Manas has a whole new range to launch
No.
across the banana tree.
I think Manas has learnt his lesson. He'll be focused. Okay. So, Sapna, over to you. Now, while both of these are disrupting some of the current players or some spaces which the current players had ignored and not gotten into, you must have seen a lot of players trying to disrupt the insurance industry. You referred to some of them initially saying a lot of D2C work, etc. is happening. So, how do you think that space is shaping out? How are you keeping ahead of them? What are their inherent advantages, disadvantages? Just speak a little bit on this.
So, I mean, I think it's actually very interesting, and I think it's good overall for the sector. But see, like for example, in our space now, for me, from Manipal Cigna point of view, both the shareholders have very solid shareholders, no VC backing.
So Manipal and Cigna, yeah,
So home funds, and the driving force is profitability.
sure.
So it's not really growth. So if for me the mandate at my board level is profitability, customer experience, customer satisfaction, loyalty, retention.
Nice.
Those are the KPIs and the marketing.
All
we are
long-term
getting judged
KPIs.
on.
Yeah.
Now growth. So when we kind of go to our business, like we say, we want growth calibrated for risk, cost, and quality. Right?
Risk,
so that's
cost, and quality. Nice.
When we say quality, again, I'm going back to the claim ratio, loss ratio point of tech part, whatever, because we don't want to get any business.
Sure.
Want to underwrite the people that we get on board. What we say is what we deliver. So that's like the matrix that that we have as part of the board. So now there's a lot of new players which we, for example, who get into the business, again end up spending a lot more on marketing, on advertising, than we as traditional players actually end up doing. And there's a lot of burn at that level. So you're sometimes tempted to follow through the whole same mechanism, and especially in newer categories like OPD. So while we are in hospitalization, and that's like the
Main
main
part of health
main
insurance.
part of health insurance, OPD is another whole segment, and players coming in for that smaller segment, and you can see that this is complete burn on the P&L. Right, but I think initially, with like how I think Puru also said, the enthusiasm of seeing yourself up there, you invest a lot of money and you kind of hold on. So I think that's the same thing that we end up doing. I mean, I would say many companies would not be burning that much capital as we see startup coming in and disrupting and the businesses initially. Unfortunately, and like there was another whole concept of sachet insurance. I don't know if you've heard of that, smaller sizes. So innovative concepts, right? Because otherwise you see insurance as very traditional, typical, boring.
Yeah, cookie cutter kind of
yeah,
approach.
मतलब
Yeah.
हाँ कुछ हो नहीं रहा है मतलब तो यहाँ पर नया sachet insurance launch करते हैं.
Okay.
So hey, it's good ideas, and I'm saying it's great, and I think the good part is I think it challenges us to think
More
like that.
Yeah.
Right? Because many times you get into the zone and you have people who have been doing the same thing, for a long time. I think a lot of startups get you to think differently, and they challenge you, and you need to reinvent your thinking, your strategies, your agility. So the agility that a startup provides you is sometimes not there in bigger, larger corporations.
Always, yes.
Yeah. So I think that's where I think you get challenged, and you feel that you need to build that kind of into your ecosystem also. So that's why you start seeing innovation cells, agility. A lot of to kind of counter that, and that's really the play that I see.
Nice.
But I think one thought would be that when when we're doing this, I think we should focus on sustainability. How sustainable is this matrix? So how long can I do this till I say, okay, fine, now I have to shift over. So I think two words like the relevance. Many times I find startups or the newer ideas being relevant, so and not as sustainable.
Yeah.
So if you can find the right balance between relevance and sustainable, I think that's a great equation.
So
That
when you
this are-
talk about sustainable, this is from a P&L
from a
profitability
P&L,
point of view.
P&L, profitability, growth,
Customer
scaling up.
experience, yeah.
Like how are you going to scale that up when you do it? You might do it now, but if you're going to scale up, and I mean, you see a lot of businesses really burn at a 120, 140% than what they are, so so how long can you sustain that?
Actually, you've provided us with the right kind of fodder. This is Sharavana's favorite topic to talk about. This whole thing, and we have covered this multiple times on our podcast, which is around unit P&L or unit profitability. And a lot of the people talk about burn. We have heard this term multiple times, sometimes because of enthusiasm, like Puru said, but that's a euphemistic reason. One of the key reasons is when you get invested, you have to show growth. When you are pushed for growth too often, you go in this race to try and acquire customers as fast as you can. In your category, Sapna, customer acquisition has a different value because once the customer has taken the insurance, there is reluctance to shift. For their category, the customer is going to come back the second time or the third time in the same month or the second month or the third month. But either ways, this phenomena exists. All of us know this, and it is detrimental to unit P&L. Right? Now, Puru, how do we, as a startup yourself, why do you think do you think every startup understands the unit P&L and the issue that can happen because of the burn? And if they do, why do you think they get into this this race or this kind of a behavior? What would be your hypothesis?
So I've noticed two trends. Okay, one, I think the biggest thing is, and again I'm just sort of looking back at how I have met founders and their calculations. So let's say I raise 100 rupees, and I have been given a milestone by my investors that in 2 years you have to grow 2x, 3x, right? So usually I've seen the math they work is 100 divided by 24. I can work 4 rupees per month. That is one math. That, okay, I have a runway of 2 years and I burn 4 rupees. Now the problem is, while that math is fine, but ideally it is not a linear equation. 4 in month 1 and 4 in month 24 is not the same, right? If you are directionally right, you'll probably start with 10 rupees and go to a 1 rupee burn. That math, something startups don't work on. The second thing is, where is the burn going in? If the burn is going in just to amplify something that I still don't know. I've seen a lot of founders, just amplify in month 1, month 2, sale chahiye. But they don't realize that it is actually, they have got a very high discounted sale, which might not repeat, and eventually they'll end up burning. Somebody who was ready to pay you 20 rupees is now getting the same stuff at 10 rupees because you wanted it early. So I have preponed sales, but I have probably lost money on the table. And that then eventually translates, because then what you've also done is not only lost 10 rupees, but also lost that same customer who will never come and buy you for 20 rupees, right? Because price becomes the most critical channel for me to buy. And that then only makes it worse. I think that's the piece that startups struggle with, where they burn a lot initially and look at the wrong metrics to burn on. So burning is natural. You can't be profitable. I mean, you can be, but it's just that you have to be much more courageous to sort of not burn much. What you have to do is, where is the burn going? Is burn going to build that unit economics, saying, okay, let me just nudge the customer a bit to come and buy me, and then look back saying, okay, is she buying me? Is she buying my product? And then is she coming back? I'll probably spend 2 more rupees to get right up there to show myself. But if after that she's still not coming again and again, then probably I'll withdraw. That's the piece. The PMF piece, the right to win piece, is where if you start investing, then that becomes an investing versus spending. That's the piece of burn, I think, that I've sort of...
I love the point. So this is more around how much top of the funnel you're spending.
Top and middle, yes, absolutely.
Top and middle, rather than discounting at the bottom, which then you are possibly hurting the brand in the long run.
A lot of brands, they end up spending on merch or properties which are just going to amplify or just show the brand for some time, whereas I don't even know what is the brand for. First tell me what the brand is and then start advertising. That, I think, becomes...
I think the word that Sharan used for this is vanity metrics.
There are so many vanity metrics, but I have a question, Puru, because you've run an e-com marketplace such also. There are a lot of the terms that were relevant in the tech field are being applied to the FMCG world, where this acquisition cost and the lifetime value of the customer, while it would have logic in certain cases, by nature FMCG is a repertoire category. So I have this saying that if an Indian consumer bought one biscuit packet a week, one new biscuit brand, they can go 2 years without repeating a brand.
Yeah.
So how does this work for you?
No, so you're absolutely right.
In an FMCG world with tech-based metrics?
No, so anybody in our office who's used LTV or CLV has seen my IR side of things. Right? So we don't use that. We don't use that at all, because and we use something called as key business drivers of a category. These are all largely, at least in the spaces where Manas and I work, these are low involvement categories. People don't risk their lives to buy a pack of rolled oats, to be honest. They'll just pick us up if they remember us and if they are sort of slightly familiar. So we, rather than using loyalty, we actually use familiarity as the term, saying, okay, if you are familiar with the brand, the chances of you picking us up is slightly higher. That's about it. So, and for us, familiarity and inertia work more than loyalty, because you're used to a certain brand and you'll just probably go and buy. The algorithms today work in the same manner that, okay, you bought this last time, can you buy? So the channels market for us, right? If you bought us one. So, but that does not mean that somebody else cannot come and break us. They can. They'll probably remember, they'll discount by 20, 30 rupees and buy us. So CLV does not work. You're absolutely right. What does work is that as your conversion rates are going up, are you acquiring new customers? So for us, one of our North Star metric as an organization is NTB, which is new to brand. So the way Sapna mentioned new to health, we actually use new to brand because we always feel there will be some leaky bucket for sure. There will be people who will eventually switch to other brands and then they'll switch back to us, whatever. But howsoever we might think we are at the top of the hill claiming to be the best brand in the world, there will be people who are not as emotionally involved as us, right? So they will probably just switch saying, okay, fine, this brand is great. Let's just look at it. The packaging seems nice. Let's just try a different brand. That's fine. For us, the matrix is as long as you are acquiring new brands consistently every month, and as long as the same brands you acquired are repeating over a period of time, I think you're fine.
That's brilliant because even for listeners, this is the core of Byron Sharp's book, right?
Yeah,
It
exactly.
says new triers is what brands need to
Yeah.
go after.
Yeah.
And I think he says even for Coke,
Yeah.
a heavy buyer would have bought
Light buyer and heavy buyers, yeah.
like once a year or something. So I think that's
Yeah,
a good.
yeah.
And recently we did a episode on loyalty, brand loyalty. And this is what we came down to. We said familiarity and inertia has far bigger role to play
Oh, wow.
than even loyalty.
There's nothing called loyalty.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In this world, a lot of the brands, regardless of how high the involvement of the
Yeah,
consumer
yeah.
in the category is, there's no loyalty because finally consumer is looking at the value. Whoever provides value, customer is loyal to the value, not to the brand. So therefore, inertia, familiarity, access, ease of delivery, these are the factors that kind of influence the customer's behavior. Good, excellent. Manas, how about you?
About the
About burn, yes.
Yeah, see, the first memory I have of you, even before I met you, is you tearing your shirt on Shark Tank and like jumping out saying,
Tearing or taking off?
he tore a shirt.
You did? You tore a shirt?
to get attention.
And just trivia,
Impact property.
Impact property. He was the impact property. Okay.
he was the first ever deal on Shark Tank India.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Sequentially, I mean in the actual way, but yeah, they telecasted it separately in a different sequence. But yeah, coming back to the burn rate, I think a lot of negativity around burn is what I feel all around.
I like this.
But yeah, I mean, reason with me. I'm a challenger brand.
Okay.
Right? Forget about brand. I'm a challenger business. I just have one good product with me. I just brought it into the market. Now, the only thing which is working in my advantage is what? Time. Because after a point of time, I know that if this is working, someone else will come and occupy this. And what is the effort that we have put in so much amount of time, effort in the last 3-4 years, is going in waste, right?
Correct.
Right. So what should I do? Forget about all the investor, all the other negativity around the brand. But one thing that if I have resources of cash with me, the one thing that I'm going to buy with that cash is growth, the scale.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So what can I do to reach a mass amount of consumers in a shorter span of time so that they know that there is a brand called Beyond Snack exists in this world? So for a particular product, let's say in this case, banana chips, so that if they wanted to have a great quality banana chips, they can always come back to this, right? So my objective is to create that awareness over there. And that awareness is going to, retain back into their memory with some elements or other, so that they can come back to me again and again after a point of time. I don't mind investing that money into this. So in a way, let's call this, I don't know, in D2C world, there is performance marketing and all those. Let's look at a brand as a whole, right? Let's call it brand marketing. It's easy way or a simple way. My brand Beyond Snack existing for solving banana chips, a great quality banana chips. If I can actually put that into consumers' brain by investing a little bit of money, I wouldn't mind it. You can call that, burn. But after a point of time, right? After a point of time, this is actually a fixed cost in a way.
Absolutely.
Right, this is a fixed cost, and I as far as I don't have to keep on spending money in the future forever, then that is a problem. But in this case, I believe that it is an investment that I am making in the market, so that I can buy time, the growth with that short span of time. And any given point of time, I can go back and work on my unit economics, because I know that what is working. If all these are actually workable, only if the unit economics
Exactly.
or the
Unit P&L is working.
yeah, because let's say that I'm investing a lot of money in brand marketing today, but I know that I can work on. I'll be getting the benefit of volume with the scale, right? And I can also work on optimizing my production cost or all the other aspects so that I can cut down on my brand marketing after a point of time. At the same time, I'll be able to get the benefit of volume at that time when I leave my brand marketing cost, cut down my brand marketing cost. So I don't think brand spending a little bit money or not
Is
a
a
good
problem,
amount of money as a burn, that is a negative thing about the brand.
As much as it is, it's fair. In my defense, the burn we're talking about is the bottom of the funnel burn. And what you're
Discounting.
talking about is the investment in business beforehand. So when I talk to founders, right, I have this point of the unit P&L. Even if you are not making money on your unit P&L right now, do you know where this unit P&L will turn profitable? And if you're investing in building your infrastructure, which reduces your costs as you scale, that's perfectly fine. It is
it's more of a variable cost approach.
Exactly. Now, if you're putting down, you're making a product for, say, 80 rupees. At the best, you're going to bring it down to 70 rupees. And you're today already selling it for 50 rupees. It just doesn't make sense.
Sir, I completely agree. And in fact, I think Puru and him both said the same thing. Investing is fine, discounting is not. Right? And
Or more generic terms, variable way. So for example, if you keep investing on or increase your investment all the time to get that one sale, then I think
There's
it's
a problem.
It's a problem. There is a problem. But the objective is that, okay, you invest right now to gain the benefit in the future, and the future, it's like a fixed cost. Now you are gaining the fruit of the investment that you have made.
If I can just ask you one question there. So when did you really start investing? I mean, after you got the confidence of the product being well, you got the scale in Amazon, when you knew the product was working, I think after then is when you kind of said, okay, fine, let me invest this so I can kind of get profit, manage my production better. Or was it when you immediately, when you hadn't tested it all out?
Both the angle I'll tell you. Initially, when the funding was not there, then we have very limited set of resource. The first role of a founder is to keep the company running, right? So the cash, yeah. So that is the most important thing. If that is not getting, impacted, or if there is no issue with that, I don't mind investing in, provided there is a result coming from this, right? So in that point of time, a big amount of investment also is not possible. But then all of a sudden, 2 years down the line, we got a history of that 2-year knowledge, everything, all the learnings came in. But suddenly there is a money also coming in. We know what to do with that money. And there is a good response from the consumer is also coming. This is where I should actually do something. Then I'll confidently go ahead and invest that money in the market. First has to come from the product market fit. There is some level of confidence has to come.
I agree. So I think that's where I kind of see the difference sometimes. Is like, when do you really time that investment? And I think investment is the right word. But is your product fit like perfectly fine? Have you figured out that you're going to scale with that? And it's happening. And I think when to stop.
Thank you for listening to CoBB, Conversations on the Business of Brands with Sudeep Chawla and Sharavana Raghavan. Subscribe and learn more at cobcast.net.